Okay, so now we're working on the back side of our how to scale affect the coordinate plane. And the top part starts with a sentence. And blank scale can be determined by reviewing the set of blank. So the first word is appropriate. An appropriate scale can be determined by reviewing the set of data. What this means is you need to look at the points that you have to plot and then determine how far your scale should go. Okay? Let me see if I can turn this off. Oh, no, messed it up. Sorry about that. All right. It says if there was a 20 by 20 grid, determine the scale for the various sets of points below. Let me zoom in for you guys. All right. So we're going to start on this side. For number 3, you have a -6 and 7, 3 and -5, 0, -2, and a 9 and a 4. So one thing you should think about first is your highest number, which is 9. Okay? But usually with graphs, you want to go with a very well-rounded number. So we're going to say your scale would go from -10 to 10. Sorry. -10 to 10. That means your number line, all of your numbers will fall between -10 and 10. Now, then you have to realize what are you going to count by? Then you need to look at your values again. You can count by ones because you have both odd and even numbers, so you don't have to count by twos. So I will put count by ones. Okay? So next, I'm going to write in a pen for you guys so you guys can see a little bit better. We're going to move to number 4. All right? You have 18 and 6, -16, -5, 8, and -12, and 15 and 4. So I'm thinking that this scale goes, the largest number is 18. So you need to at least have the number line go to 18. So 20 is a close number, and remember, it's only a 20 by 20. So you can go -20 to 20. And looking at it, we have a lot of even numbers. So I'm going to say count by twos. Okay? For number 5, it looks a little tricky. We realize I see some decimals in here. So now I need to figure out my highest number. And it looks like 2 is actually the highest number. So we're going to say at least a scale to 5 would do. So I'm going to do -5 to 5. And for this one, I don't want to count by ones. I think I'm going to count by halves. Because if you think about it, we have 1.5, 2.5. We have a half right here. So we're going to say you're going to count by halves. So this is important when you're making your own graph to realize what you need to go by and what you need to draw for your scale. Number 6 has fractions in it. All right. So we're looking at the highest number, and I think the highest number is 3. For this one, you can either say -5 to 5, or you can even say -3, to 3. Now, when you're looking at the fractions, I see at least 2 of them have thirds, so I can say I can count by thirds. It would be hard to count by halves, though, if you wanted to get to thirds, because thirds is not a number that you can have divided evenly. Okay, so that wasn't too bad. Make sure you're looking at your data, and once you look at your data, you need to make the right choice. You don't want to have this right here going to -20. That grid will be way too big, and you don't have that many numbers. All right, so this is what we talked about in the last video with zooming in to get only these points to show clearly. Okay, moving on to the bottom part. Almost finished. It says determine which point matches the ordered pair. So now 7 in this graph goes together and 8 in this graph goes together. So the first one you have -2 and -3 and 1/2. So earlier on Monday we took notes to see what quadrant it would be, and you remember we had the little chart like this, and you made the C, and I know that this is positive and these both are negative. So then on the other ones, I know that this X value over here is negative and the Y is still positive, and this one it's positive and negative. So this is going to help you with this one go a little bit faster. So now I see that these two are both negative. So I know I'm looking at quadrant 3. All right. So I'm going to go to quadrant 3. And as you see, it's only one number. Okay. It's in. Now, if I didn't want to do that, you know that this explains the X and this explains the Y. You would go to your X and you see -2 is right here. And you're going to go down 3 1/2. So if you go down 1, 2, 3 and go down half, you're right at N. All right. So let's try that way to see. So now you have 3/2 and 2 3/4. The first thing I would do is switch that improper to a mixed. That would be 1 and 1/2. Okay. Remember math. Multiply, add, and then keep your denominator. So we're looking at an X value of 1 1/2. So I'm going to go ahead, I go 1 1/2. Then I'm going to go up 2/3, 2 3/4. So 1, 2, and about 3/4 of the way, you're at L. Okay. I want you to try the second two by yourself. Remember, you have -5/2. Please switch that into a mixed number as well. And you have another one over here. So make sure you are flipping them and making them a mixed number before you start graphing the points. So go ahead and pause the video and figure out those last two. All right. So going back to this one, this -5/2, if I was to convert this into a mixed number, you are thinking how many times can 2 go into 5? It goes in there 2 times, which gives us 4, which means that's 1 away. So that is -2 1/2, and I'm going to go ahead and convert this one over here. 2 goes into 3 1 time, 1 is left over, so that's -1/2. So now I have a -2 1/2, so I'm going to the left side because the left side of the number line is always negative. So 1 2 1/2, and then the second one is positive, up 2 1 2. You are at letter K. Next, you have a +3, so 1 2 3, and you have a -1 1/2. You're going to go down 1 1/2 way down, and you are at letter M. All right. So now this one is the complete opposite on this side. You are not given the points. You have to come up with the points. All right. So the first thing you need to take a look at, just look at the graph. All right. It's going to -5 to 5. Okay. So if I count, these are increments into 1. So each one is 1. So this will be -1, -2, -3, -4, and there's -5. All right. So that means if you wanted to get half, you know where directly it's in the half mark. Okay. So let's look at W. All right. W is over here. First thing you're doing is looking at the x-axis. Remember, if you get confused, label it first, the x and y. So for x, you are going over 1, 2, 3. So the x value is 3. I'm going to go ahead and write that. Make sure you write in parentheses. And the y, I'm looking at the y, which is this way. So I see it goes up 1 at least, but it goes up at least a half. So I would say 1 1/2 for that coordinate. All right, let's move to x. I'm looking at my x-axis first, and x is right here. So I'm going to go over 1 and about halfway over. That stops around where the x is. Then I'm looking at my y, 1, 2, about 3 and a half. All right. So we said that this one was negative 1 and a half. So 1 and a half right there. Oops, sorry, wrong letter. Negative 1 and a half. And then your y, which falls about right here, and that is 1, 2, that's a negative 2 and a half. So go ahead and start y and z. Make sure you put both of your numbers inside of parentheses. Okay? So go ahead and pause it and do y and z. All right. For y, you should have got 1 and 1/2 with 3. And for z, you're going to do negative 2 and a half and negative 1 and 1/2. Hopefully you got those correct. And class will go over them, and I'll have some checkpoints for you guys to do to make sure you guys are understanding. Now at the bottom, if I can zoom out so you can see, it says summarize today's lesson, guys. It's important that you guys are filling this out. So this will kind of help you remember the key points that stood out to you. So if it was knowing how to separate your data, go ahead and write that. So at least write 2 sentences down here and you are finished for today.